Jerusalem Online, I'm Mike Greenspan, and we're coming to you on the eve of Yom Kippur, that's the Jewish Day of Atonement. On Yom Kippur, Jews don't merely ask for forgiveness, they're expected to review their lives and their deeds and sum up the accounts of their soul. Cheshbon nefesh, soul-searching if you will, is the name of the concept. It's a kind of Jewish do-it-yourself psychotherapy. Soul-searching on the airwaves has become something of a Yom Kippur tradition for Jerusalem Online. We're going to look into Israel's soul again on this week's Look at the People and the Stories Behind the News. Joining me today are Professor and Member of Knesset, Israel's Parliament, Naomi Chazan of the Meretz Party, the former Director General of the Prime Minister's Office under Yitzhak Shamir, Yossi ben Aharon, and the Rabbi of Efrat, a community on the West Bank, or Judea, Shlomo Riskin. Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 years ago on Yom Kippur, we went to war. A war in which Israel was attacked by its Arab neighbors. 20 years later, Israelis got another shock. After years of refusing to talk, suddenly the PLO and Israel were talking, and autonomy in the West Bank and Gaza Strip seemed a lot closer than anyone expected. Very simply, how do you feel about what's happened? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you undecided? Ladies first.
Ladies have choices. I think this is really, finally, a historic occasion, because the importance of this agreement lies in the fact that we are recognizing that there are two peoples on this land, and the Palestinians are recognizing that there are two peoples on this land. And 20 years after the Yom Kippur War, I think it's finally time that we move forward. I think it's a marvelous opportunity and occasion.
So Naomi Chazan is pleased. What about Yossi ben Aharon?
I have a sense of foreboding. We all want peace, but what this government is doing is, in effect, a betrayal of a sacred trust that was given to it by the electorate. It has betrayed its trust on things that are cardinal to our very existence, and therefore I'm very worried and concerned. And this Yom Kippur, I think, instead of looking forward to a new era, a new change in our situation, I think we'll have to struggle to push back what this government has done and to undo it.
And Rabbi Shlomo Riskin.
I believe very deeply that there are two peoples who live in Judea and Samaria and Gaza, and that their rights have to be understood. And when I first heard of the agreement, I was overjoyed, because I understood that it was an agreement that began with Gaza and Jericho. When I read the agreement a few days later, the world became black before my eyes. I'm certainly not against an agreement. And certainly Judaism stands foursquare for peace, especially during this period. But the agreement as it is presently constituted, I believe, is a march towards catastrophe, and God forbid the destruction of the state of Israel as we know it.
We'll try to find out a little bit more about why each of you thinks what he does think in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at some video. The Israelis living down in the Jordan Valley and in the Gaza Strip are doing some very serious soul-searching these days. In those areas, Palestinian self-rule may be just around the corner. The newest phase in the peace process will affect them more directly than most of their countrymen. They have plenty to say. Carl Percal reports.
As Israelis in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem demonstrated for and against the government's peace package with the Palestinians, Israelis living alongside the areas that will soon come under Palestinian control in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip were uncertain about their future.
Now I'm living in Jericho, and they told me to come here, the government. So what they are going to do with me? Go back to where? I'm not young.
We are building life, wonderful life. And it's pity to take it from us.
Their numbers are much smaller than their symbolic and political importance. 5,000 Israelis live in Gaza Strip settlements whose greenhouse agribusinesses are the major source of income. Set up under the previous Likud government that called them essential for Israel's security, they have increasingly become targets for terrorist attacks. Israel's current labor government sees them as a problem waiting to be solved. A Jewish island in a sea of almost 1 million Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip. Under the terms of the Israel-Palestinian agreement, Israeli troops will soon leave Gaza's Arab population centers, but will remain responsible for the Jewish settlers' security, something settlers are skeptical about. Peace with Israel, some of them say, is not on the Arab agenda.
Major groups of Arabs, including Hezbollah, Hamas, Syria, are not just interested in small pieces of land. They basically want Jerusalem. They want all of Israel.
Settlement organizations in the Jordan Valley, a 30-minute drive from Jerusalem, recently produced this video to encourage Israelis to join their communities. It presents 25 years of settlement activity begun under the Labor government after the 1967 Six-Day War, when Israel captured the area from the Jordanians. These settlements, everyone agreed back then, would always be Israel's security border. During that quarter of a century, they developed a chain of settlements based on agriculture and industry. They built homes, schools, community centers, and raised a younger generation that knows no other home. They endured economic hard times, brutal weather, and terror attacks because they believed they were doing something good for themselves and their country. Now, this demonstration, barricading the main Jericho road, seemed to express their sense of despair more than any plan of action.
They told us to settle here, we brought our families here, we built homes here, we built houses, all the livelihood is here, now they want to take it away from us.
At Vered Yericho, a community of 40 families overlooking the Arab city of Jericho that will soon enjoy self-rule, despair was quickly replaced by anger. Anger at a plan that they say won't work.
I'm waiting for peace, but I'm afraid from the kind of this peace. What kind of peace they are giving to me? They're giving me a paper, and that's all? It's not like it's in Egypt. When we make peace with Egypt, it was, you know, the border. Which kind of border you have here?
I'm sure it's going to be a civil war here in the, between Jews, because many of our people, really, it hurts them what the government is going to do. It's a mistake, it's a big mistake. No peace will be achieved like in this way.
Not far from Vered Yericho, members of Kibbutz Almog and other kibbutzim in the area met to discuss the Gaza-Jericho First Plan. Kibbutz Almog was founded by a group of young Army veterans. Now, after more than a decade of hard work, they're finally beginning to reap the fruits of their labor. And they think the price of this peace may be worth it.
On one side, you could say there is a lot of fear because of the unknown. We do not know what happens in the short range. On the other side, we have a lot of hope. We believe that the peace and the program would give us a chance, an opportunity to develop the area. And we believe that we will see the intention of the government with action.
I think it's good that finally we can speak peace with the Arabs, and I think the solution that's going to be good, even though it's here in the area, and maybe we'll have to give up living here.
Within Israel, the debate over the far-reaching accords with the Palestinians is focusing on the broader historic problems of peace, security, and reconciliation between Jews and Arabs. For Israelis living in the areas that will soon be under Palestinian administration, the more immediate issue is whether they will have to give up their homes and livelihoods in the attempt to resolve these historic conflicts. Carl Percal for Jerusalem Online.
Israelis doing some serious soul-searching. We're doing some soul-searching here in the Jerusalem Online studio as well. It continues right after this. Jerusalem Online continues now. Israel is plastered with billboards and bumper stickers. Some say, new elections now. Others say, we're losing the land of Israel. And yet others say, Israel is waiting for peace. The latest turn in the peace process, reconciliation, it seems, between Israel and the PLO, is one that splits Israelis down the middle. Israelis argue, sometimes bitterly, over the merits of giving up territory for peace, over the prospect of a Palestinian state at Israel's back door. Ladies and gentlemen, people have been talking lately also, as one woman did in the report we saw before the break, about the possibility of civil war, Jew picking up arms against Jew over this issue. Is this talk? Or could it happen?
Never. I hope it will never happen. We are a democracy, and we cherish this democracy with our very lives, and I hope with every fiber in my being, in my soul, that we will fight, we will protest, we will demonstrate, all within the confines of our law, and we hope that the message will reach the minds and the hearts of this government.
That's what you hope, but you're a great realist, I know that. Realistically, do you think that there aren't going to be Jews who will pick up arms or throw grenades or whatever it takes to stop this?
I don't want even to consider the possibility. I refuse to contend with this taking place, and I think that even though we do have some fanatics on both sides, on the extremes of both sides, they will be contained by the overwhelming majority in both camps.
Naomi, a few minutes ago, Yossi said that it was not legitimate. This government had no legitimate right, if I remember correctly, to do what it's doing. It didn't have a mandate to do this. How do you see that?
I thoroughly disagree with him. Obviously, the 1992 elections were fought and were won by Labor and Meretz precisely on this issue. Labor went to the electorate and said, we want a mandate for an interim settlement and for peacemaking. The electorate, the majority of the citizens of Israel gave us this mandate, and we are doing precisely what we promised to do. We are changing the nature of our relationship. And Yossi ben Aharon, I think, knows that very, very well.
No, Mrs. Chazan. The Prime Minister, Rabin, promised the people of Israel the three no's, that he will not negotiate with the PLO, there will not be a Palestinian state, and we will not pull back to the 67 lines, which is precisely what he's doing.
If I might say so, the three no's are the three no's of the previous government, of the Likud. These were carved in stone. I think that is what put us behind schedule in the entire peace process. And therefore, what we have here is movement, dynamic, by the way, that it was opened and started in Madrid by the Likud government, in which you played a major role. And it was quite clear that this dynamic would lead inevitably, if all the sides were truly committed to an understanding. And that is precisely what we did. We took the base that you gave us, and we finally...
And you screwed it up.
No, sorry. We finally succeeded in bringing about, again, an absolutely revolutionary change. And let's not deal with the details for a minute. And just one point, and that's very, very important. What is so crucial now is that both sides agree there is not zero-sum politics. It can't be all mine or all the Palestinians. It has to be both of ours, and that is what's so
But that's precisely what the problem is. I don't think that any of us argue about the importance of peace. And the mandate that this government had negotiating for peace, that's very clear. The question is, what kind of peace, and will this lead to peace? If indeed what we were getting was a situation in which both of us had everything, or each of us gave up a little bit, I could understand that as well. I think what has happened is a sellout. What has happened, in effect, is, according to the appendix called General Understandings and Agreements, that the council, and the council basically is the beginning of what must become a Palestinian state.
A democratically elected
Allow me to just finish my point. Will extend over the entire territory of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, with the exclusion of the territories in East Jerusalem. In other words, everything was given to the other side, with the exclusion of the territories and even the area between.
This isn't an interim agreement over self-rule. What did you expect, that it would be partial?
What I expected was very clear.
I have to stop you all for an interim commercial break, because if we don't take it, we're out of business. We'll be right back, searching Israel's soul, right after this.
Jerusalem Online Headlines, I'm Carolyn Benetton. Israelis are no longer willing to suffer when it comes to minor aches and pains. According to a recent survey, there has been a dramatic increase in over-the-counter sales of painkillers. In the last 2 years, more Israelis are going to the pharmacy first before the family doctor. American-style aspirin-like products are now lining pharmacy shelves. The medical establishment is warning against abusing such medication, as the first cases of addiction and dangerous side effects are beginning to surface. Employing illegal immigrants for home and child care made international headlines from the states recently. But here in Israel, the practice is also popular. The Interior Ministry is starting to get tough by deporting illegal workers and shutting down agencies that place them. The majority of the illegal workers are from the Philippines and get jobs as housekeepers. Although there are rarely reports of mistreatment, employers pay low wages and avoid providing social benefits. What do Israeli fruit juices and swimsuits have in common? They're both proving very popular in former communist countries. Soon citizens in Poland and Kazakhstan will be able to start their morning with a glass of Israeli orange, grapefruit, or mango juice thanks to Ganir Citrus. The company has just signed export deals of over $1.5 million with those countries. And swimsuit giant Gotex was the star of an Israeli-only exhibition show in Moscow recently. The company returned to Israel clutching over $1 million of orders. Thousands of English-speaking families are expected to descend on Wingate Sports Institute in Netanya. It's being called simply The Event, and organizers say it will be the largest gathering of English speakers in Israel ever. It promises to be a day of Anglo food, music, and games such as cricket, softball, and tennis. The most popular show on Israeli airwaves right now will be instantly recognizable to most Americans. It's the Israeli version of the Family Feud. The game has topped even the national nightly news program in the ratings and marks the start of an Israeli game show explosion. Soon to air, The Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal, and on the new Channel 2, Wheel of Fortune, and the most sought-after audition to be the one to turn those letters and become Israel's new Vanna White. I'm Carolyn Benetton for Jerusalem Online.
It's a Jerusalem Online special you're watching, Searching Israel's Soul for Yom Kippur. My guests are the former Director General of the Prime Minister's Office under Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, Yossi ben Aharon, member of Knesset Naomi Chazan from the Meretz Party, and the Rabbi of Efrat, a West Bank settlement or a Judea settlement, depends on your point of view, I guess, Rabbi Shlomo Riskin. Rabbi Riskin, we were talking before about what is or what isn't legitimate, how much Israel got as opposed to the Palestinians in this proposed agreement. Let me ask you this, doesn't Judaism have a point of view, or perhaps it has more than one? I've heard arguments put forth saying that it's forbidden to give up a single inch of holy or biblically promised ground. I've heard other religious arguments put forward saying that for peace, it's worth giving up almost anything, including that ground which was biblically promised to Israel. Is there a Jewish point of view, or is it every rabbi for himself?
There are a number of different views, and I believe that in the interest of peace, it is possible to give up certain areas that we believe we should have, to give up in order to establish a compromise for the sake of real peace. My problem with this particular agreement, however, is I could have understood very well an agreement that would take the areas populated by Arabs within the Judea and Samaria and the Gaza territory and give them to autonomous rule. That would have made sense. And to have made some kind of deal together with Jordan or some kind of joint rule, Israel and Palestinians, in order to make certain that a Palestinian state would not be literally at our jugular.
I don't know if Jewish religious sources talk about that. It sounds like the problem has gone beyond the ken of what our forefathers can help us with.
Religious sources speak very strongly about pikuach nefesh and the importance of human lives. And therefore, the question is a very, very problematic one.
Perhaps this agreement is doing precisely that. It is securing Jewish lives. It's securing the state of Israel into the future, because it's based on the assumption and on the premise, which we should have recognized many years ago, and that is that we have to interrelate with Palestinians.
Let's talk about the future of a people if peace comes. I'm talking about the people of Israel, be they Jews, Arabs, Druze, Circassian, or whatever they be. The question is this. In this land, which has never given its people an easy economic time, and which is absorbing immigrants from around the world, and hopefully in greater numbers, that could be another result of peace, isn't there another upside, positive side, to counterbalance all the doubts that at least the two of you have about what the future of peace means vis-a-vis Israel and the Palestinians? A better, easier to live in Israel. What do you say?
Of course we all want that to happen. The question is, the people that we have chosen to make the deal with, number one, are weak. Number two, represent Arabs who are insisting on right of return. Number three, are not trusted by the majority of the Palestinians who live on the ground.
Rabbi Riskin, you're not answering my question.
If there will be peace,
Yossi ben Aharon is sitting over there, cool, calm, and collected, and as I said before, and I know it's a fact, he's a realist.
Well, there is.
How about that future?
Much has been said about the economics of Israel and its neighbors being complementary, and we can open a new chapter in relations that would bring about a boom. This is over-exaggerated. It is not complementary. We are already on the stage of a very advanced, technologically advanced industry, and we are dealing in commerce with the industrial countries of Europe and North America. And therefore, the only plus, if at all, will take place, if we will have peace, and I doubt very much that it will be this kind of peace, is the end of the Arab boycott. And I don't see this happening. And even with Egypt, with which we have peace now for some 15 years, there is no end of the boycott, in fact, and there is no real commerce between us and Egypt.
If I might just interject, crucial elements of this agreement are economic, both directly between us and the Palestinians and regionally. In order to deal with the challenges that we have, the economic challenges, absorption of immigrants, building a new country, we need to expand our economic base. That requires investment and new export opportunities. The Middle East is our export opportunity. This kind of coordination has amazing possibilities.
A lot
and we have
remains
to
to be
pursue
seen.
them.
A lot remains to be seen. And something else that remains to be seen is your cards and letters. We're not going to share any of them with you this week on the POB because we don't have time for it. Let me just remind you that the address for your comments, questions, and suggestions has not changed. It still is Jerusalem Online, POB 33003 in Jerusalem. And we still have the same fax number. Use it. 972 is the country code, after which you dial 2381658. And we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're looking into Israel's heart and soul and summing up the accounts of another year gone by. People, we began by talking about the peace process. I had a lot more in mind to discuss with you, but somehow the peace process took up all of our time, and I guess it's really no surprise. But let's get personal for a second. One last minute to each of you. What kind of soul-searching is each of you planning for himself this year? We'll start from the rabbi, the left-wing politician, the right-wing superhawk, and see if there's any difference. Go for it.
I try to understand where we went wrong, how easy it has become, number one, to give up Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, and number two, not to deal with those people who really deserve their place in the land, the Palestinians who live in it, but rather the people who have been killing them during all these years.
I think that for the first time since the creation of the State of Israel, we are beginning to fulfill truly and secure the Zionist dream. And for that reason, I'm hopeful. I think the time has come, really, and I reflect here not a left-wing position, but I think the position of the vast majority of the citizens of Israel. The time has come to give peace a chance.
I think we are in the midst of an earthquake, and I hope that it will pass very fast, and this government will pass on very fast, and we will have a return to a more sane policy that will unite the people of Israel and unite them with their land. Because you have to have both elements, unity of the Jewish people and unity with the land of our forefathers.
Well, with such heavy thoughts on your minds, it sounds like none of you is going to have the time to do any looking into his own soul and check his own misdeeds over the past year. Maybe next year you'll do better. At any rate, Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, member of Knesset, Naomi Chazan, former director of the Prime Minister's office, Yossi ben Aharon. It's been enjoyable, interesting, stimulating, thought-provoking, and a little bit frightening sitting with the three of you and talking with you on this eve of Yom Kippur. Thanks a lot for joining me. Soul searching is an ongoing process, and we've been searching Israel's soul for the past half hour. It's far from enough time to ask all the questions, let alone answer them. So the search for understanding will continue in the year ahead, and Jerusalem Online will be back this way in your neighborhood next week. Join me then. I'm Mike Greenspan. Shalom, Gemar Chatima Tova. May you be inscribed for a very good year.